Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1106B, and today's date is October 20th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Countdown to the Event of All Events Has Begun. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, yesterday, we had the presidential debates. We had the two candidates, Trump and Hillary Clinton, battling it out to become the next president. And there were many issues. One of them was Obamacare. And when they talk about these issues, they're talking about the issues with regards to what the government has put out there. And what I mean by that is the government puts out certain propaganda where it's their version of the truth. Obamacare is great. It's helping the people. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not a disaster. It's fine. But we know that Obamacare is a complete disaster, not just by saying it, by understanding that more than half of the exchanges have gone bankrupt. The insurance companies have decided, you know what? We can't make any money doing this. And it's funny because they're the ones who wrote the bill. People are looking at Obamacare saying, okay, why do I have a penalty? And why are you forcing me to take health insurance? Obama told us that Obamacare was going to be affordable. That's why it was named the Affordable Care Act. Of course, as we've always said, whatever they name the bill, it's always the opposite. Premiums are skyrocketing. People cannot afford it. So they're dropping it. They'd rather take the penalty, which is completely unconstitutional, first of all. Now Obama is out there, and he's going to tell you how he's going to fix Obamacare. So wait, let me get this straight. He created Obamacare, telling us how great it's going to be, how we can keep our doctors, how the insurance premiums are going to be very low, everyone can afford it. It's going to be health insurance for everyone. And the opposite happened. And now he's telling us that he can fix Obamacare, the thing that he created, which he really didn't create. It was the health insurance industry. So he's urging young people to go sign up to Obamacare because the government will subsidize you and you won't have to pay anything. And he's also suggesting that lawmakers create a government-run health insurance option. Very interesting, because this seems to be what they were after all along. And whenever the government gets involved in anything, it is always a disaster. So what they want to do is they want to fix the problem they created. And remember, they created the problem in the first place, and they're going to try to start government-run health insurance options. So they're telling us more lies to cover up their old lies. And remember, when these bills are written by corporations, they don't have the people's best interests in mind. When the government morons go along with this, they don't have the people's interests in mind. They have their own interests, and the corporations have their interests. The people are a side thought. And this is completely obvious. And when you listen to these debates between these two candidates, they never went to the root of the problem. How can you discuss the problems of the United States if you do not go to the root of the problem? If you don't go to what has caused all of this? It's like discussing Syria. You can't have a discussion about Syria unless you go back and you learn the history of why the United States is there and what the United States has done. And I'm not talking about the people, I'm talking about those in government, where they wanted a pipeline. Assad didn't want the pipeline from the United States. Assad was going to go with Iran's pipeline. Well, the United States didn't like this. So they decided to overthrow Assad, just like they did in Libya, just like they did in Yemen, Lebanon, Sudan. We need to go to the truth, the facts of what is really going on in all of these places. And if we don't do this, we cannot have a discussion at all, because the discussion makes no sense. And this is what was happening during the debates. You couldn't have a real discussion because you're going along with the government facts, their version of the truth, their version of the propaganda they're spewing out there. It's impossible to talk about. But again, Google, Obama, I should say the U.S. government, they want to set up a fact-based, truth-checking system. Again, where are they going to check all the facts? Where are they going to go? To the government? Listen, the government lies to us more often than they tell the truth. Actually, I don't even think they ever tell the truth. I just think they tell a lie to cover the lie. I mean, think about it. The National Security Agency was in front of Congress, and Congress asked, "Are you spying on the American people?" They answered no. We come to find out that yes, they were. They lied. Obama says, in front of the American people, there'll be no boots on the ground in Iraq. There'll be no boots on the ground in Syria. We're only going to have a couple of visors there. Well, by their count, we're up to 6,000. We'll go with their number. But if you add the temporary people in, I mean, we're up to 14, 15, 16,000 combat-ready troops in Iraq. Another lie. But no one cares about this. No one is going to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is the central bank. Those elites, those people behind the curtain, we need to call them out on all of this and explain what is going on with the petrodollar. Explain why we're in all these countries. Explain why we have these refugees. Because if you just talk about refugees and you don't understand why this is happening, you can't fix the problem. It's a ridiculous argument. And that's what they were doing. They were going back and forth with nothing. If you don't know why all of these things are happening, you can't fix the problem. All you do is put band-aids on it, and you pretend you fixed it. And you create these issues so people take sides. Well, we need to go to the root of these problems. But they don't want to, because the central bankers control the puppets. They control these puppets, and if the puppet gets out of line, the puppet will be removed. And we can see as the elections grow closer and closer, and as people take sides, and people become very angry about their candidate, something's going to explode. Because we know if Hillary gets into office and the popular vote says Trump is the winner, the Electoral College most likely is going to go with Hillary. And people around the country are going to be very angry. And we know this is what the government wants. They want people to riot. They want an event because the government knows how to handle these type of situations. They use force. And they would love to do this. They would love to declare a state of emergency. Now, if the margin is far apart and the popular vote is for Trump, it's going to be very difficult for the Electoral College to say, we're going to give this to Hillary. And that's where the cyber attack from Russia comes in. They're going to say the elections are a complete fraud. And this is going to make people upset. And Obama is going to step in, most likely, saying that we're going to have to postpone this until we figure out what has happened. And this was the preconditioning of a cyber attack against Russia. So they're covering all bases. They're making sure that everything is covered for this election. And the election is coming up very soon. And we can see an event of all events happen during this time period. And this is something to watch. Now, we understand the powers that be, the different agencies within the United States government. They've been spying on the American people, and they've been tracking protesters. They've been tracking those people who protest against the central bank. They track people during the Baltimore riots. They track people pretty much everywhere. And we're finding out for years, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, they have provided data to a company marketing social media surveillance tools to the police. Now, there was a newly published investigation by the ACLU of Northern California, and these police were using Geophidia, and they used the company's APIs to create real-time maps of social media activity in protest areas, maps which were subsequently used to, identify, in some cases, different protesters, those individuals that might cause a problem. And the ACLU's report includes direct evidence the tool was used to monitor unrest after the death of Freddie Gray in Baltimore. And we see right now that they were using these tools, and when you look at the terms of service with Twitter and Facebook, well, you find out that Twitter, their developer agreement, includes a specific rule against using the data to investigate, track, or surveil. When you look at Facebook's policies, you see that developers may not sell, license, or purchase any data obtained from Facebook or their services, or put Facebook data in search engine or directory without the company's express permission. Now, once the ACLU started to contact Facebook, started to contact Twitter, they terminated Geophidia's API. And they did this on September 19th, after being contacted. So they were allowing the police to use this to get real-time information and track what people were posting to figure out where everyone was. Of course, it's a violation of your privacy. And they were digging deep into the information. But remember, the NSA told us that we don't spy on the American people. And of course, as we know, it is a lie. And since that lie, we have found that they are spying on everyone. They collect a lot of information. Now, can they sort through millions and millions of all this information and listen to every single conversation? No. But they do have algorithms that look for different keywords, and they can hone in on certain individuals that they want to look at. Now, again, they don't have a warrant. This is a violation of your Fourth Amendment, but they've been doing this for a very long time. Now, out in South Korea, we see the United States is taking everything to the next level. We know they've been pointing the finger at North Korea, that North Korea is getting ready to attack. They're going to be firing a nuclear missile at any minute. And we know this is all part of the agenda to bring in the THAAD missile system, to bring military assets into the region, to up their budgets. And we see right now, United States, Japan, and South Korea, they're going to be holding a trilateral military exercise at sea near South Korea's Jeju Island. And this is going to be on Saturday and Sunday. And there's going to be an Aegis combat system. There's going to be a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopters. The USS McCampbell destroyer is going to be there. The USS Tippecanoe ship is going to be there. The P-3 Orion aircraft. And a Japanese destroyer is going to take part in all of this. Now, to up the ante a little bit more, we see the U.S. is going to deploy 3,500 strong armored brigade to South Korea to provoke North Korea a little bit more. Now, the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team, one of the oldest tank units in the U.S. Army, is going to move to South Korea for 9 months on a rotational deployment. They're going to be bringing 90 M1 Abrams tanks, 90 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, 112 M113 armored personnel carriers, and Humvees. So Military assets, troops are moving into this region to provoke North Korea. We've been following all of this for a very long time. And we can see right now it's escalating. Everything is on fast forward. They're getting prepared right now. They would like this war started yesterday, because we can see right now that their plan to have regime change in the Middle East failed. That whole plan was to create pipelines to supply Europe with gas, to keep the dollar on oil, to control the entire region, to keep the petrodollar propped up. But it's not working. Their system is falling apart, and they will kill as many people as they possibly can to keep their system propped up. We see right now Russia has extended the ceasefire for 24 hours to allow humanitarian aid in. And while they opened up the corridor, al-Nusra, which is the terrorist group that the United States government central bankers control, fired on a crowd of civilians who were gathering at the entrance of the humanitarian corridor. And we can see right now that the terrorists, they don't want humanitarian aid coming in. They don't want any of this. The United States is out there, and it was funny when you're listening to the debates and they're talking about Aleppo and how Aleppo is falling and how Russia has invaded and Russia is coming in and bombing Aleppo. Yes, Russia is bombing Aleppo, but they forgot to mention that Russia was invited into Syria by the elected president, which he is recognized by the UN. It is a sovereign country. They didn't talk about the 2 bases in Syria. They didn't talk about how our soldiers are inside of Syria, a sovereign country, which means we invaded. They didn't talk about the reason why we're even in Syria and the reason why there are so many refugees coming out of the Middle East. That all was left out. You can't have a conversation unless you know the facts. Well, the UN is saying that they're hoping to get medical evacuations into Aleppo by October 21st, and most likely, I wouldn't be surprised if the terrorists don't let them in. We are getting word that 2 Belgian F-16s, well, they flew in and bombed Aleppo, which killed 6 people, civilians. And Russia is saying it was 2 Belgian warplanes. We have the radar information. They flew in and they hit this area. Now, Belgium is saying absolutely not. We were not around there. And we can see already they're handing the radar information over to the UN. And they're showing everyone that we have this information. And it was the coalition forces. Remember when Ashton Carter went around to Europe and he said that he needed more military assets, more troops down in Syria and Iraq? Well, this was so these countries could fly in and do the bombing runs. And this is what we're seeing right now. They use the refugees, which Turkey released onto Europe, to force the European countries to bring in more military assets. And along with the radar information, they said that each aircraft has a unique identifiable signature. And we can see by this aircraft, this was a Belgian warplane. It was an F-16, and we followed it as it flew in and hit the targets. We're getting word that a U.S. A-10 Thunderbolt aircraft was shot down in northeastern Syria. And the Islamic State is out there saying that we did it, we're taking credit for this one. Well, I really don't believe that the Islamic State is going to hit their masters. So the Pentagon is out there and they are denying all allegations that there was even a downed plane. So we'll have to see and wait to hear what has happened. Maybe this plane was flying and there was some type of malfunction in the plane, or maybe it was one of the Syrian S-300 missiles or something that hit it, and they don't want to say anything. We don't know at this point, but we will continually follow up on that. We see that President Hollande and Major General Gary Volesky, they're saying that the Islamic State, they are moving from Mosul and they're fleeing to Syria, just like we thought was going to happen. And they're saying that they're moving into Syria, and we know why this is happening. They're trying to move them into Syria so they can use them in Aleppo. Now, I think what they're going to try to do is say that we need more military assets, more troops to follow the Islamic State into Syria. And it will allow the coalition forces to bring in ground troops to follow them into Syria. And of course, it's not to destroy the Islamic State, it's to join up with them and to fight in Aleppo. And we can see right now, all of this is coming to a point where the United States is in big trouble. They have no options left. We know they want a ceasefire. We know they're going to be talking about peace, because whenever the United States government central bankers are on the losing end, they want a temporary ceasefire so they can regroup. And their strategy, when you look at this, they don't want this to happen because they understand what the United States wants to do. All of this right now is headed to an area where the United States is going to have to do the event of all events. And we know the United States, many reports ago, we talked about a tactical nuke that was snuck into Aleppo. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something happen. Now, who are they going to blame this on? They might blame it on Assad, most likely, that he did this, killed many people. It would be the perfect false flag. And we would then see the United States go in. Now, it would be nice if the United States just left Syria, but they can't do this because once they do that, other countries are going to tell them, please leave. The petrodollar falls. It implodes. So we're going to see the United States government central bankers, right after the elections, most likely, create an event like we've never seen before. And the countdown has started for this next event. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.